Pharah sitting alongside Azir, Talia, and Annie.
Okay, can I interest you in any of the premier junglers here? Any of these teams? Because Pantheon's open, Vi's open, Trundle's open, Xin Zhao's open. We've got everything. We've got everything and anything that you guys might want available for our junglers, which I then think probably means that we sort of leave those, unless one of them is so highly prized over the other. If Tarzan decides I need to get Pantheon, for example, then absolutely great. But no, well, never mind. That is just the case.
Yeah, it looks like we're perhaps not going to be trying to leave the door open for a carry from Shun. We're probably going to be taking the bog standards there. But an early rumble, and this was not in the very small list of these are my favorite Xiaoxu picks that we talked about earlier.
No, it wasn't. But I mean, we get Gwen now probably for Flandre as well. That's completely left open. Yunara getting picked up for JDG means that Peyz on his Yunara. We'll get to see if that can pop off again. I mean, so far had a pretty shaky win rate through, I'd say, global, let's say, but it's something that I'm excited for Peyz, and it's another pick that gives JDG and another nice semblance of scaling. If they can get there, that's great, but AL have been a team that are so good at pushing the envelope. I remember saying, last time I was on the LPL show, that this is a comp that doesn't scale well, they need to win early, and then they win early, and it's always fun to see those.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we threatened the Aurora, but have gone for the Orianna instead for Shanks, so still leaving that top side open. But I was wondering if the Aurora's coming in, it would be the flex up the Flandre, so we're not going for the Gwen, but we're still going for a contesting AP threat up there for AL.
All right, well, this is something that we don't typically see from teams that aren't IG really. They're one of the best teams at flexing the Aurora around, but looks like a couple of other teams now starting to get in on that hype train, as it's Flandre who locks in the Aurora. The Gallios for Scout gets locked in. So again, this is now a composition which is all really about Peyz. It's about making sure that his life is as easy as possible, and that now that jungle pool can get pinched out. I mean, I do think that for anyone's legend, I'd rather focus out that support role and make it so AL are in a advantageous position in support position, because they don't get first pick of AD of supports here, which is always going to be a problem. So ban away some of those high prio supports, because the junglers, there's so many of them, it's not worth it.
Yeah, but they do seem to want to try and thin out Shun's options right here. As you say, they're not going to get all the premier options off the table. JDG instead focusing on those bot lane carries, trying to take away the best for Hope. Now, I'm wondering if maybe there's a Sivir to come away there, the Corki as well. Both of those picks are lossless for Hope so far in this split. Kai'Sa taken away, we saw that in the highlight clips. He's a very strong player, and the Corki is the focus. So it's more about that mid-game power that they're stripping away.
Yeah, getting rid of some of their power through the early game, which I do quite like, especially when you've got a Yunara down on that bot side. It's also a bit of a timer on the map, where I think that AL are a little bit weak at the minute. Ori, one of those picks that needs a couple of items to come online, doesn't necessarily have the high damage super early on, but does have that impact, that agency with the shockwave. Joven and Wukong both taken off the board, and Alistair gets locked in here, so it's that premier pick of supports that gets taken. And now again, Jun saving that R5, seeing if he can maybe pull out a carry, because again, looking at the damage, it's very consistently reliant on Peyz. They might need a little bit more coming out of Jun, and he might have a pick that's a little bit spicy locked in that he might want to take.
Yeah, not taking the route of LNG last time, leaving the Alistair open on a blind engager. They take the Alistair themselves, but the Rakan is open as well. If AL want to lock that one in to solidify that duo. Now, it's not necessarily as much dive threat. Of course, the Pantheon, Orianna, and the Roar really want to get stuck in. Rakan would follow that up. Hope may be slightly abandoned on the backside. We'll see if AL can keep track of that AD carry and keep them topped up and safe for the potential dive threat. But of course, JDG, as you said, Roodood, they really want to just enable Peyz to play his game. So they might not necessarily be looking to actually threaten that Xayah through the team quite directly.
And Jun in these positions previously has been, being able to default back to things like a Kindred maybe, if he thinks that it's a good angle, instead decides that Trundle's the pick for him. Gonna have a good opportunity, I'd like to say, versus Ori versus Xayah. This Trundle has a good amount of agency with that pillar to keep those carries locked up, or at the very least threatening that position. You can use the pillar as well to interrupt some of those engages from Tarzan, some of those engages from Kael, and potentially disengages as well. Definitely a lot of options available to Jun on this pick, but again, this is a JDG composition that is reliant very heavily on Peyz. For AL, that makes the job even easier. It's kill Peyz and you're good. If you don't do that, then we may begin to struggle, but if you're looking at the ways to win this game, it's take down the Yunara, shockingly.
Yeah, and we did highlight the importance of that bot lane matchup, Yunara versus the Xayah right here. Both can be massively impactful later on. We also highlighted Xiaoxu and the work he's been doing for JDG. Now, he doesn't have like necessarily a hard counter up in top lane, but there's massive threat there. Pantheon, Aurora certainly has the burst to take him down if he's a little lax with the warding, a little over-aggressive with the positioning. So we're going to see how Xiaoxu can manage that one. If he can get out of that lane looking good, he's going to have a great mid-game impact to follow up with the equalizer. But I think if I were him, I'd be a little scared. And especially as one of our best performers with JDG, I want to see him perform well, coming from the relegation on RNG back into this now group, ascend and performing so well in front of us here. It's a tough call, it's a tough matchup, but let's see what he can do.
And I think that for Xiaoxu, like you say, all eyes on him, I think, in this game to see if he can make some moves toward that top 3 for that All-Pro as well here. Loaded onto the Rift now for game number 1, JDG and AL. About to scrap it out.
Bit more of the Jayoan. Bit more of a heavy presence right there. We'll love to see it. Obviously expected from Group Ascend, but some supportive fans in the audience. Obviously the LPL fans are, second to none in many ways. The engagement, the investment, the fan signs, just truly unmatched.
We're LTA South graduates. We can't be saying things like that.
Well, that's true actually. I think I can
the
go
fandom
back
of the
LTA
LTA South
now.
would, yeah. They've got some fans themselves. Let's be fair.
Certainly got some vocal ones, that's for sure. They love to let them make their presence known. As AL heading back to a standard setup right here, starting on the bot side for Tarzan, potentially going to be rotating up to that top side. We'll see if Xiaoxu can keep himself safe as Flandre taking up a deep position in that top rush, as is Joe and Peyz. They will simply trade back, obviously, the Rakan level 1 with the damage and the healing to offer.
Yeah, pretty obnoxious level 1. And honestly, again, this is just a by-the-by thing, but Rakan's Q might be the most overpowered basic spell in bot lane, to be honest. Like, this thing is so broken for just trading and getting a nice heal as well. Like, such a fast projectile as well for what it does. But either way, with the power that this Xayah Rakan duo is going to have, you'd like to think that they can put the Peyz in the dirt, really, through the early game. Try and make the Yunara pay for, taking a scaling pick blind, and might have a bit of trouble as these level 2s are hit.
Yep. Stark contrast against the quite exceptionally useless Alistar level 1 that we talked about last series. Level 2 been hit by Hope and Kael. Peyz having to step back, clipped by the Blade Caller right there. Of course, we know Yunara a massive, massive threat later on. Rakan Xayah, a notoriously strong 2v2. So for now, we'll be expecting that to go as is. Both junglers, in fact, heading up to that top side. So this top lane could become a little bit spicy. The river, that top scuttle, potentially contested, but Flandre with all the control in the world over that top wave right now.
Yeah, you'd expect to see Jun path back down toward this bot side so that he can, at least find something by way of a scuttle crab. Expectation with double pushing solo laners is that AL will be able to take the crab on the top side and then maybe look to find a reset for their Pantheon and let him back out onto the map with that little bit of extra gold, as you can actually see that Tarzan already halfway through finishing his blue buff before Jun has even started up his. And you will see this actually quite frequently from junglers in the LPL as a Ghost already.
Ooh, big damage over onto Peyz right there. Lovely little Xayah Rakan combo and the Stolen Summoner.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty early and pretty wasted Ghost there from Peyz. He'd taken all of the damage. He didn't actually contribute any trading back. And Joao was always going to headbutt away. Now Shanks in trouble.
Too much mana to speak of, just flashes away from the barest edge of the taunt from Scout, so a lovely pickup by JDG to fire back and potentially set up a threat for later.
Yeah, and again, I think if maybe he's in range of the Trundle there, not necessarily a wasted summoner spell, but certainly something that Shanks will be a little bit sad that he's had to give up there, knowing that you know, really the trundle is going to come from his top side down to the bot side is maybe a little bit of a waste, as Tarzan is looking to maybe try and find a play on this top side. Keeps cancelling his recall here.
Xiaoxu maybe thinking about dropping a ward down there, but that's not the right time to do it. He goes for it. There's the flash down. He flashes away, but still caught up. The damage is big. Not big enough for the kill. But Xiaoxu will be kicking himself right there. You can see him thinking about it. Unfortunately, takes a big chunk of damage as Kael as well drops very, very low in bot.
Yeah, but it was to hold the wave to save some CS, and also importantly, it stops the recall from Peyz and Zhuo. So they can't really go back to base without necessarily losing out on a lot down on that bot side. Looks like Hope goes back to base, picks up his Cull and Longsword. And he's a little bit scared, actually, of stepping up to the wave. So I think that fortunately for JDG, they're not going to be punished, and they are, in fact, going to have an advantage down in that bot lane. So you can see Xiaoxu continues to trade aggressively here, despite the fact that he's down 10 CS, despite the fact he's got no flash. It's the presence of that ward in the pixel brush that now gives him the freedom to be able to do that.
Scout will trade onto Shanks in that mid lane as well, pushing forward with the Galio. Has already gone back for his boots and his Dark Seal as well. A bit of extra damage and mobility in that lane, but yeah, credit to Xiaoxu for, despite losing so much HP in that trade, manages to trade back into Flandre decently, can hold that wave, pick up some CS. So JDG struggling a little bit early on, but they've not given up massive advantages just yet. In some of these lane matchups, we would at least expect to go this way for now.
Good to see that Peyz is able to grab the majority of that farm under the turret, so doesn't miss out on a lot of experience. About half a level down on Hope as a byproduct of the nice early scuffle that we saw from Kael, and already looking for a bit of a fight, and looks like that's the same to be said on both of our sides.
Oh,
whoa!
Dearie me, Xiaoxu.
Get down, everybody, get down!
Sends it into the Summoner's Rift over the way. Cannot quite land it right there. Lovely ability to hit 6 early, but can't miss the harpoon and then the ult as well. Maybe expecting like a juke into the brush. I'm not sure. Ultimately, that's a flub.
Yeah. News reports in China of a wildfire outside the stadium they're playing in are unfortunately being founded, as Scout finds a good trade onto Scout in this, onto Shanks rather, in this mid lane. But that was definitely a flash to be burned there. Flandre, at the very least, his ulti. Would have liked to see him have to force the flash out from the Aurora, who was level 5 at the time, and you know that's unfortunately just not the case. Maybe looking for anything extra would have been a little bit greedy, but Xiaoxu there, whiffed ulti, definitely feels bad. But, you know, it's a calibration ulti. It didn't do it at the big team fight moment, so he's got it safer for later.
Yeah, we've adjusted the sights, so next time it's going to be bang on target for sure. Just wait and see. And, you know, he did the hard part. He managed to rectify the lane, get the wave back under control, get the health advantage, and just actually hitting the skill shot ended up being the problem right there. But for now, he has gone back and got the Merc Treads. He's got a little bit of extra defense right there. Protect against potential more attention from Tarzan. And JDG have stabilized in bot side as well. Small CS deficits in top and bot, but they are at least able to control the waves. And now I'm waiting to see what Shun can do. He's got level 6, got the subjugate ready and waiting. Perhaps he can find some influence on this map to get those important carries scaling up. Remember, we need Peyz to be strong for JDG to really play through it later.
Oh, good play here.
Actually, massive damage onto Hope. They've got the barrier. Level 6 has been ticked though, just when he needs it. Peyz without the same. And Hope holds on to the ultimate. But now Shun's arrived to potentially keep the pressure on as it snuck past his vision from Kael. Headbutted into range by Zhuo, but a simple W. Keep Rakan out of danger. Yeah,
Zhuo here actually playing the lane pretty darn decently as he, you know, dodges the grand entrance there by engaging onto Hope. I think catching the AD carry a little bit off guard and forcing him to go back to base. He's going to miss this wave under the turret. You can see Kael trying to make sure that there's nothing too badly lost, and Shanks actually comes in to bail out the bot lane, but you can see that these movements are costing JD or costing AL on the map. Means that the Orianna's got to go down to the bot side to catch that. Zaya has to move into the mid lane, and looks like there's a T-piece from the spell book from anyone's legend, and they're going to try and make the most of this play. With push still happening on that top side, it is giving the window over to AL, and credit to Flandre here. This counter pick of Aurora onto the Rumble has given them prio over not just crabs, but now these grubs as well. Safe to say that this Aurora pick is working out for now.
Great pivot by anyone's legend to head over to that top side after the bot lane was not looking in such a great state. So it's going to be a trade of objectives across the map right here. Scout as well now, once again matched up into Shanks, still trying to trade heavily. Actually gets ultimated. Shockwave doing a fair bit of damage, and Scout fairly slow, of course.
Still has
Can keep
flash.
the damage coming in. Still has flash, as you say. Will walk away. Has a TP if needed as well. But Shockwave needs to be burnt and be available for a little bit.
Steal away with the red buff on this top side, initiated by Tarzan, and you can see that Jun walking back down to his bot side. He knows that he doesn't have really any opportunity to walk in here. We might actually see Scout looking for a fight here. No mana on Shanks means that Justice punch forward and a swift walk away. Lovely stuff. Great action.
Yeah, Scout certainly trying to assert some dominance here. Trying to keep the pressure onto Shanks right now on this Galio. Has the ultimate ready himself as well, so can quickly rotate over to a play if JDG find a good angle for it. You can see this early game continues to be relatively quiet. No one able to get a strong foothold in this all-important series for JDG. AL really just trying to set the record for the beginning of their bracket run. They would love to lock that top 4 today.
And just a single game win in this series will cement that for them. The series obviously doing so much more than that, and maybe starting to push them into a position where they can maybe choose their opponent of 2 picks instead of being the 4th pick that are just going to get left with whichever team none of the rest of the Ascend top 4 want to play against. But very quiet early start to this, and again, we don't necessarily hate this if we're JDG. Down 800 gold at the minute, but they've got the Yunara, they've got that late game scaling and that potential to go long in these team fights. As Peyz now knocked up, but
exhausted as well, and Hope dropping the aggressive ultimate, gets the flash, but it can't get him out of dodge.
Wow.
And Kael follows up, but now the Galio ultimate with a shield, just in time to get Peyz out of dodge. Scout looking for more. Hope already used the defensive options aggressively. The Blade Caller roots up Scout, but AL find a lovely little window to strip the flash off of Peyz.
And ulti as well from Peyz. Want to highlight, if you're not familiar with Yunara, you'll recall maybe the years of Zeri that we had in years gone by, and we were talking about the fact that Zeri is a champion that relies so heavily on her ultimate. In late game team fights, in these mid game team fights as well, Yunara, the same exact style. If you don't have that ulti ready and if it's not popped, then you're just so much weaker really as a champion, and you definitely need that ulti to be able to function, to be able to fight. It's a relatively short cooldown, so not something that Peyz needs to be particularly worried about. Will be available for the Dragon, for the fight around the Herald if there is to be one. But just something to think about as we get later and later. The transcending Yunara definitely going to be something that anyone's legend need to keep track of, and whether or not Peyz can pump out the DPS or not.
Looks like we may be contesting around the river just now. No Dragon for 90 seconds, but Tarzan with an item completed. No Triforce available for Shun just yet. We've not seen too much out of the Pantheon. Bit of pressure on that top side, but he's ready to get stuck in, I dare say now. He's going to fight for that river control well in advance of that Cloud Drake. Would love to open that gold lead up a little bit. Of course, they managed to build it for themselves, and Flandre now trading heavily onto Xiaoxu, the Aurora. Once you get some levels in those abilities, the burst becomes absolutely massive, and it's a defensive equalizer just to clear out that wave.
Ooh, Xiaoxu was hoping that the equalizer would take the kind of minion. He cancels his recall. He knows that 81 gold, very worthwhile, but he's going to be slightly delayed now on his play. Going to have to teleport either back out to that top side, which then gives a very sizable advantage over to Flandre, as he can recall, probably walk out toward that bot side, maybe set up for the Dragon, catch a wave on top side with teleport later on. Does give a good advantage over to anyone's legend. We'll see if they look to utilize that, or if Flandre is just going to slowly walk and pace his way back out to that top side. I do want to quickly draw your attention to those items though, Trajan, and to people at home. We've got Blade of the Ruin King for Peyz being picked up here instead of the Kraken Slayer, which is an item that's been, I think, largely propping up Yunara. And especially in a game where I'm looking at, 5 not particularly HP stacking champions. Yeah. Definitely a little bit curious as to whether or not Peyz is going to be able to find the purchase in these team fights that he thinks he's clearly going to be able to with that blade.
Setting up some deep vision right here, aggressively headbutting away Kael, but Flandre is there ready and waiting a draw actually. That's the Ghoster's way out. A little bit uncertain right there. Jun does complete the Triforce, now the Trundle And the tower threat, as we mentioned earlier, as well as having a lot more bite in that team fight. Peyz still working on Blade of the Rune King. It does feel like Blade of the Rune King was one of the first, like, oh, this item's so broken on Yunara, guys. It's the secret strat that was very early on release, and we have now tilted away from that, and we've instead settled on the Kraken. But Peyz keeping it real with the old school build from a week ago. And is still on the Blade of the Rune King as AL actually might want to get in here. Xiaoxu flashing in to get the knock up and the Galio to follow. Pantheon on that front line struggling. Peyz has the ultimate. He is transcendent. He is firing. He is free hitting. The shockwave clips him though. Out comes the equalizer. First kill down to Tarzan. Flandre's arrived. The Aurora damage is big, but JDG already control the fight. Scout, a massive team fight from him. And it's the red side team that open it up first.
A 4-for-0 in our first skirmish of this series. JDG absolutely slaughter anyone's legend as they were trying to get a bit fancy, trying to steal away a blue buff. Instead, they'll lose out on the fight, they'll lose out on 4 kills and the dragon to boot. This JDG composition for a comp that we said was looking to scale, they found a very good team fight nice and early on into this game. Xiaoxu starts it off, and I love the combo of Alistair Headbutt into this Galio's Heroes entrance as well. But a triple flash taunt into Jun immediately following up on the backline is just far more impactful than the one-man equalizer, the one-man charm that we got to see from AL. They didn't quite have the tools left in the tank, and Kael, only really charming up Peyz to pull him back into the shockwave. And in fairness, you have to give credit over to Xiaoxu there in that fight as well for all the memes we gave him about the calibration equalizer. He's calibrated, he's back, he's ready.
That one landed square on the chin of AL, no question about it. Scout going to pick up that bot lane turret more or less uncontested right now, assuming he has the wave to do it, as AL, not deterred, will head straight onto the Rift Herald. And JDG, looks like they don't feel confident enough to contest it just now, but folks, if you want to learn to team fight like Scout, please draw your attention to prodiff.gg. All the coaches are players from the LTA, NACL, and ERL system. You can use code LPL10 for 10% off and support the LPL English broadcast, because my word, brother, I want to be able to play like that.
Maybe we'll, show one of the plays to our pros. They'll tell us all about it. I know that in a couple of days we've actually got a guest on once again. It was a pleasure having Rhino on a couple of days ago. We've got another one joining us just before we round out the regular season. So thank you to ProDiff, as well as thank you to those pros for giving us their time and for making sure that you guys at home can improve on your play as well as JDG. Not many notes from that first team fight. It's all about replicating that and making sure that they're in a good position to do it again. Is Kael able to nimbly evade the headbutt pulverize combo?
A lot of our questions for JDG being answered kind of in that first play. We wanted the re-emergence of Scout. We wanted the lock-in from Xiaoxu, and both of them arrived in a big, big way. Xiaoxu, though, under pressure. Early flash away, keeps him out of range of that stun from Pantheon. And the Rumble remains deathless, handling the pressure very well this game.
Yeah, and this is not level 5 anymore. The Aurora, the Pantheon, they've got the burst to take you down if they land that stun. Teleport up to the top side, as we are going to see first brick fall for Scout as he TPs up to the top side.
We're in a fight in the river as well. Hope's already dropped the ult, but Kael buys some more time. Show him around the corner, cannot catch out Hope, but Kael is not so lucky. JDG with a 5th kill on the board as they manage to hold up the top turret as well.
Yeah, now they can look to collapse on this top side as well. You can see Flandre took a pretty rough trade at some stage, and now Jun here with the Trundle, the Trinity Force, and that Frozen Domain as well. You can see will absolutely rip through this turret.
Here it is, the real value starting to come online here. AL had started to build up a moderate gold lead from that early game, but the fight breaks out, and now it's JDG 1.5k ahead. Both dragons to their name as well. Just the grubs on hand for anyone's legend right now. Now, they absolutely still have the tools to break back. They'll always have the Pantheon, the Orianna, the Rakan there. Pick potential is very, very strong. But if JDG don't leave the door open, set themselves up, do their vision lines properly, and approach team fights like they did before, they could be looking to get the first step on this road to upper bracket started off right.
Yeah, and I think that, again, reminder for people that JDG, yes, they've got 4 series wins, but they were all against FPX and WE, almost the freebies of the LPL that Split number 2 Ascend has had, or Split 3 of Ascend has had to offer. Now moving into a very good start out versus anyone's legend. They still need to try to dot the I's and cross the T's, as an early transcendence from Peyz and a great dodge as well gets himself away from being rooted up. Hope able to get away with the flash and with the Feather Storm, but no such luck for Kael as he's unfortunately left out to the Wolves, and that pillar does a good job at separating the two bot laners.
Only real downside there is that Peyz has not been able to get any of these kills himself. A 0-0-5 for the Yunara, still already 2 items deep before the 20-minute mark. He's going to be happy with that one, as is Hope. But we really want to start to get some gold funneling into this Yunara. It seems like he's playing very, very well, knows how to pilot it, knows where the strengths are. And if this guy gets rolling, he is going to be able to absolutely take over a team fight.
Call already finished as well, so that 2-item power spike, that injection has been found. A teleport down to the mid lane tier 1 turret here from Xiaoxu, as he is definitely making a very sizable impact on this game. He's been a good pressure sponge for JDG through game number 1, hasn't really given away anything either. Double pink wards in this brush from JDG just to confirm that there is no vision in here for anyone's legend, but setting up around the dragon, which has now spawned. Again, last time we saw these two teams take it out, it was Zhuo looking for the engage that found it. And now JDG need to repeat that success.
Scout on the flank has been discovered though by Flandre and Tarzan. He's going to maybe lead them on a merry chase right here. Gets the ult off just in time. No vision for AL to stop him, and the Dragon's already done. The fight's still happening. Kael caught in the front line. Massive burst to knock him down. Scout again with another kill. The equalizer slowing the retreat. Shockwave only connects onto one, and Peyz hunting for more. Looking for that first kill. The Yunara hungry for the pop-off, but cannot quite get it. JDG split on 2 fronts, but Flandre finds himself abandoned, isolated in the backside of the play. Can escape from Judge. Still has the ult and gets burst onto as well.
Yeah.
Switches position, looks for more. Tarzan's back in. AL with the re-engage. They take down 2, but Xiaoxu hunting down for Shanks. Going to get him range for the harpoon in a bit of a dangerous pincer, but the top laner escapes. And AL firing back in that fight. Now a flash and a stun to clean up yet another kill. And the Atacon starts it up straight away.
And Flandre actually coming up huge here for anyone's legend. This was a fight that JDG had won, but they thought they'd caught out the Aurora. Little did they know that with all the bursts still waiting and ready to be dished out, it was Flandre who was looking to sign the death warrants of some of these JDG members. As the Atacon is going to fall down on that bot side, anyone's legend find a big swing back. And this game, Trajan, right back to level pegging as both of these two teams sat about 100 gold apart from each other.
Looked like JDG could do no wrong in this first game, but and even here from Scout, such a nifty escape right here, a very fine margin. You thought that was just the fight done. It's such a split for AL, but ultimately, as you say, Flandre biding his time for the perfect moment to turn it.
Yeah, Zhuo once again just picking off the squishy Rakan here, one of the pitfalls off that champion. Equalizer this time doesn't really catch, forces Hope out and a little bit of damage there. You can see Peyz dashing forward quite aggressively. But then committing onto Shanks here, don't quite find that kill. And Flandre just with an insane amount of bursts. This is a 5-man between worlds, only 4 actually, because we see Peyz actually goes back to the mid lane. But a good E, almost takes down Jun as well. He goes back in, decides he wants a double kill, but the rest of the squad follow up quite nicely. Able to find a nice pick and not quite get the reset out to safety. But it's Xiaoxu who takes him down and ultimately falls after the fact.
Great capitalization from anyone's legend. Back to even footing on the gold, as you said. Now JDG, they still got the dragon. They are still on Infernal Soul Point. If they can lock that one up, surely that would get them right back in the driver's seat. One lost team fight will not end the game just yet, but now they have to give the respect. Flandre especially showed the value that he has right there. And Peyz didn't get too much done on the Yunara, still waiting for that gold injection to give him a bit more freedom, a bit more power. The scaling is massive there. Ultimately, we're still waiting for it to come online. JDG still confidently contesting this River Vision, though.
And I mean, Spellbook exhaust put down. Yeah, okay, here we go.
Scout onto Shanks right now. Maybe this time they can get the kill done, but watch for the Hope ultimate. Scout is deep with a defensive ultimate to reposition. The Shockwave onto 4, it slows down the rest, but Xiaoxu is in! Burns down the Orianna, and this time anyone's legend can do nothing about it.
And that's the equalizer that we're after. This combo of team fights, it's all about who can execute better in these 5 versus 5s. We're going blow for blow with big ticket ultimates getting hit back and forth. As this time round, it's a 4-man Shockwave on top of the in-between worlds, but there's not quite enough damage left in that tank. Scout here, heads up play, knows that he's going to be on vision, flashes immediately onto Shanks. catches him out. But fortunately enough for the Orianna, she's actually able to just walk this one out to safety. And then look at that equalizer, catches out 3. A 4-man shockwave into 5-man in between worlds, but it's just not enough because Hope has to walk off of that equalizer. He can't pull the feathers back through, which would have been that final nail in the coffin.
Kael almost caught out by Peyz once again. Has to use the Summoner Spellbook to drop a quick ghost, but now Hope under threat. Has got everything he needs, loses the flash. JDG still pressing and pressing onto anyone's legend. The gold's so even, but it really feels like JDG are in such the driver's seat right now. And so much of it has come from this man in the mid lane, from Scout, who has rocketed back into the rift. The Shroud now caught on the shockwave. And a bit too aggressive there from the JDG support. Gives one back.
I will quickly point out Shanks' build here. This isn't tier into Rod of Ages on the Orianna. This is Blackfire into Void Staff. We are doing damage on the Ori in this game. We are not waiting for that, 50, 60-minute Orianna shockwave, which will take people by storm. It's hitting and it's hurting now. And that might just be the ticket to break open this bot side turret for anyone's legend. They've got 3 people walking their way down. Actually, everybody from both teams is making their way down here.
Shouldn't taken a tough trade there against Tarzan. Ale with the number advantage. Scout ready and waiting under the turret. 7 seconds till the hero's entrance comes back in. They'll be able to be comfortably aligned right there with Droid TPing back into the middle. So JDG trying to get control of this mid lane push, and AL with the movement into bot side river might lose the turret, but the Dragon's been
double knock up
in. That's a nice equalizer, forces the only art from Hope. They're looking for Shanks again, but Scout this time can't find it. A Flandre ult does less damage, but Zhuo still abandoned on the front line. Tarzan's in! Perfect target selection, nails onto Peyz, Xiaoxu to follow, and Scout now this time abandoned. It's another great taunt. The damage is huge, but it's not quite enough, and the Infernal Soul will have to wait.
AP Galio triple kills there for Scout, unfortunately, but that was still a very, very close run thing. AL barely able to come out on top, and they do put that soul to rest. Again, these resets on the Atacon, honestly, having a massive impact. If there was an Atacon for JDG there, I genuinely think Scout finds all 3 kills, and that's a pretty good run of things. But AL, they're not settling with just the Dragon. They recognize the death timers on Peyz are still going. Xiaoxu 2, Scout as well. It's Baron time.
Already down to half HP. Flandre getting rid of that blast.
June has flash.
Take the long way round. He's got multiple routes into the pit, but Shanks trying to block him there. Zhuo hex flashing over the wall. He can't make it, and a flash from June comes a hair too late.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of need to link up there a little bit more with Zhuo. Maybe he didn't have wards. Maybe they didn't really have the window to get him in, but you just need to ward over the wall, get a gauge for the timer, and commit your flash to that play regardless. It's anyone's legend that come out on top here. Both tier 1 turrets in the mid lane are still standing, Trajan. That tells you the picture, paints you how close these 2 teams have been fighting. But it's just a missed window here for JDG. Zhuo finds a double knock up onto Flandre and onto Hope. Where's the follow-up? Where's that hero's entrance combo that we've seen so much from JDG work out so well? And then Flandre's able to do so much work on the front side of this entire time. There's just no DPS coming out from JDG. Nobody's really actually doing anything to take down the backline of anyone's legend. And it's because they've wasted those engage tools. The time with which Peyz would have liked to have auto-attacked, he wasn't a part of it. And there wasn't really the follow-up to get him there.
Almost approaching 3 items now as the Yunara, still without a kill to their name. Kept both summoners from that fight as well. Just snap decision from Tarzan to catch him too far forward, eliminates him with the damage from Flandre to help it along. As AL now, wearing the Baron buff, start to clean out these turrets, and the gold lead has exploded to over 5,000 after such an even run game 1. JDG having so many great opportunities. But those clutch team fights now at this pivotal moment have started to turn against them.
Now remember, again, we were still favouring this JDG composition if they can make it to the hyper late game, right? We know that Peyz on this Yunara, the champion itself, has the capability to do great things. Whether or not Peyz can do that and whether or not JDG can set him up to be that big carry remains to be seen. Operation Minion Waves, though, right now for JDG as they're trying to clear them out, make sure that their base doesn't completely fall. Flandre's got a double stack set of cannons here, just trying to whittle down that bot lane tier 3.
They are playing with a good amount of respect, not stepping too far forward, wary of a potential Zhuo hex flash engage. Flandre with the Between Worlds, doesn't achieve too much, but gets the wave into the tower, trying to knock this down. A turret forces him to hop over it. Scout looking for more, but only finds Kael. The equalizer Cannot lock anyone in either more. Tarzan, though, knocked up on the front line. Hope can maybe do what he can. There's a choke for him to play in, but Pantheon is going to get pushed into the resurrection. Kael's in with the ult and back out again. Scout looking for more, but the shockwave interrupts it. And now Hope is still untouched in the backline. Look at the blade caller. AL positioning that team fight beautifully, and JDG, they reach for it, but they cannot find the win.
Peyz barely lives here, and in a 2 versus 4, they're going to have to defend their Nexus. With Baron still up for another 8 seconds, anyone's legend here. Going to look for at least 2 inhibitors, but I mean, with 30 seconds on both solo laners, I'd be surprised if they don't push for more. I think they're just a little bit worried about the damage that Peyz can do and whether or not they can clear the waves. But yeah, let's try and end.
Oh, the clairvoyance from Kael, massive to restore the mana of Shanks for this pivotal fight. Zhuo and Peyz doing what they can. Heal has been committed, the turret under threat, but there's no Baron anymore, and AL, they give up the ghost, they will just settle for the inhibs, and they'll back out.
Yeah, Drake spawns in a minute's time, and that'll probably be JDG's, you know, final resting point if it goes badly for them. It'll either be that or their way back into the game if they can make these fight works. Again, Peyz still not yet found his first kill in the game, is pretty much max up timing here, but the shield from Tarzan does so much work to keep him alive for so much longer than anyone's legend maybe they'd anticipated, but he's able to get so many procs of his Sundered Sky down. He's able to keep himself alive for, honestly, way too long. And the fact that Hope is free hitting this entire time, again, just kind of the nail in the coffin for JDG in this fight. They've now got to rip this dragon off the spawn. We've got 20 seconds on that. They've got pushing waves in mid lane, pushing waves in bot lane, so if they don't do anything with them, very much anticipated that AL can just end the game with those super creeps, or that those creeps themselves will end up doing a pretty darn decent amount of work. You can already see that bot wave has been sacrificed by JDG. They need to get this dragon, they need to take it quickly, and they need to win the fight afterwards, then get back to base before those super minions start wailing away on those structures.
Xayah Featherstorm has done massive work so far this game to avoid the engages by Zhuo, by Scout, by Shun. Hope has been exactly the reliable carry they needed. Scout currently in the mid lane. He's got level 16. He's got the level 3 ultimate and a possible flank if he wants to go for it. Looks like they're going to bring this dragon down to a flip where Zhuo's popped the ultimate. But there's the force straight away onto Peyz again!
Peyz.
And Scout can't save him. Shun at least finds the Infernal. It's 1 for 2 right now, but they need to survive. They need to keep the Nexus alive if they want to use it. Tarzan ulting behind to keep the flank. Galio TP's out to get back to the last ditch defense of the base, but this is looking almost hopeless for JDG.
Scout and Zhuo versus 4. Now with the Infernal Soul as well, they might be able to clear these waves out with the Galio's base damage with that Infernal as well. But what can Scout do all on his own and just one Nexus turret standing?
Knocked up the damage. Lovely stasis to avoid the Orion ultimate, but Zhuo completely evaporates and Galio can do no more. He certainly tried his best today, but AL, they're just too strong. The resilience too good. The target selection too pristine. And JDG tumble down in that first game.
And Zhuo's doing so much in that final team fight to try and walk around, to try and find that flank, that he's not providing any protection to Peyz, and he just gets engaged on and dies instantly. And without that Yunara, that big ticket win condition that we've been highlighting the entire game, there's just nothing left for JDG to do. We talked about it in the draft. If you take down the Yunara, you win the game. And what did AL do in the final clutch pivotal team fight? They killed the Yunara.
Yep. Time after time, they managed to find that critical kill, and this has been the weakness that people have been highlighting since release, is that single target CC, the lockdown, if you can get on top of that Yunara, don't give her room to breathe, don't give her room to get a whole ult channel off, that can be the devastating factor here, and Peyz just could not get it done. You compare it to Hope, every time he's getting quote-unquote caught, but he's dropping the Featherstorm, he's repositioning, he's getting a Blade Caller off, and he's only died once in that whole game after being engaged on and quote-unquote caught out about 6 times. This is just the Xayah versus Yunara difference right here, you know?
Yeah, I can go invulnerable, and I can keep myself repositioned. I can CC people way better than you can. Like, it's night and day contrast. You know, if we're looking at pure damage and the uptime, if they're trying to 1v1 each other, yeah, probably the Yunara comes out on top. But you have to contextualize it with all the other things that the Yunara looks to do and with all the other things that the Xayah can do. And in this instance in particular, it's a pretty massive win, really, for anyone's legend. And in that bot lane highlight that we looked at, where we've got 2 AD carries that are, you know, so highly sought after, really, in the LPL, it's Hope that strikes first and Hope that takes game 1.
Absolutely, it is. He held that up, that comparison, and Hope stood strong at the end of it. if we can check in on Xiaoxu from top lane as well, and that was a very strong Rumble game, largely, right? Was under pressure from Tarzan, was able to get to stay even without giving up kills. After that first equalizer, they were largely quite impactful, but ultimately it was not enough to take the entire game by storm. And then we did see a massive performance out of Scout, but again, the solo laners just weren't able to quite be the difference in a comp that is so reliant, as you have said, on that Yunara getting to play. Peyz did not get to play this game, and sadly, it was just that simple in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for JDG because, you know, but if my maths is correct, this now signs them out of the top 4. It pretty much secures AL as top 4 as well. Looking at the games won and the overall series score, now JDG can't ever get into having as many wins as anyone's legend have, and that makes it so it's, you know, the game score itself is JDG are now locked out. They can still find 5th and get their first pick of the team in play-ins, but it's going to come down to that doubleheader versus Weibo, really, and that for anyone's legend now, it's about making sure that they can, you know, finish out strong. Let's 2-0 this series. Let's try to really contend with, you know, maybe making it so that you can get the same 9 wins on the board as your IGs, your top, your BLGs have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They looked very resilient, very calm in the face of pretty significant adversity in this game, and the gold graph really tells the story. Pretty back and forth early on, but JDG able to eke out a decent lead, about 2.5k at one point there, and then the team fight started to go a little bit wrong, and AL, to their credit, when they were in control of the lead, once they had the game in their hands, it is such a steep rise from a small lead all the way to game-winning, overwhelming advantage.
And I mean, I think that the story I want to paint here is in that kill participation, and in particular for Shanks, because this Orianna was actually very, very crucial to not just winning them actual team fights, but also to stopping them from losing team fights as badly as, you know, they could have done, to slowing down the pace of the game more than anything. And I really loved the build path from the Ori this time round. Just going flat damage and actually killing people with your Orianna spells was a bit refreshing almost to see, as you get to see glimpses of maybe a little bit weaker areas of the map, but with JDG, these fights are all going well for them because they're the ones that are engaging. They're using those big combos, but then the second that they've got to try and make their way out of danger, actually here, Flandre with a massive ulti, and you can kind of see that the power of this Anyone's Legend composition was there from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as Xiaoxu did a good job to manage out that top lane, Flandre was still very strong when he needed to be. And this Aurora topside is so devastating when we see those players, those top laners that the LPL does have that can bring it out. It can be massively impactful, and Tarzan picking up the final kill in that fight there. I'd say a relatively quieter early game for him, but once the team fights came around, he is on pace every time he needs to be, doing the job, exactly the role that Pantheon is built for. So not necessarily the flashiest solo 1v9 performance again, but it is so essential for what AL needed to achieve.
And you know, here you get to see some of those disjointed plays where you're thinking, well, why hasn't Galio actually just ulted on top of this double knockup that I've got? Well, you know, you're taunted Tarzan on the bottom side of the fight, but then from here, where is the uptime? Where is the ability for JDG to really do any damage? Well, the Galio's ulted, the fight's already over, and it just feels a little bit lackluster. And JDG, after a really, really strong start, had this unfortunate fall almost, where they end up they do end up losing out on this game, and where Anyone's Legend are able to team fight their way back in. And honestly, you know, kind of in a similar vein to how we've seen from them, where they are, you know, becoming very quickly, alongside Top Esports, one of these really, really strong team fighting teams that can seem to scrap their way out of any of these bad spots. Yeah,
absolutely. Whenever there is an opportunity, AL were there to capture it. And even here as well, you can see that they're really desperately trying to find the pick, but AL are so good at, as you said, slowing the pace down, avoiding that first engage, drawing JDD into a bad situation and pouncing with the tools that they have. That is just the mark of quality that Anyone's Legends has. Now, at the very least, we can say that I think Zhuo had a much better early and mid game than maybe he has been. He's looking much more connected with Peyz, much more on the ball, was getting great advantages, and was a big part of JDG opening up that reasonable gold lead. Ultimately, it certainly looked a lot harder to play after a while, and was trying to find his way to hope, but there wasn't the follow-up that you mentioned. So there's definitely some good things for JDG to take away from this, even if they are now just playing for that top seed in the play-in. We may be starting to see some things click a little bit more into place, and this is the time to get back on track.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, with JDG, having such a strong early game, it goes to show you that they can tussle with the best of them. We got to 20 minutes and they were up in gold. I think that this team composition has legs of 5 players. They just need to be able to take it over the line more so and sort of round out that final end game call.
Yes, and it is going to be the Flandre player of the game right here. Again, that's a game where it's tough to call, right? You spoke about the kind of the intangibles and the less visible impact that Shanks was having a lot of the time with that KP. Hope, of course, getting away from all those aggressive maneuvers on his head, managing that very well. But Flandre, that turnaround play that we saw in the highlight package was just so impactful to keep AL in the game when it was a danger of running away from them. They were going to go down against an early Infernal Soul. The gold could have spiraled away, but Flandre clutched up when it was needed and did so much damage on that Aurora.
Yeah, it's important that those clutches do happen, right? And that, when you've got Flandre, one of these again, top laners that, maybe again, we're maybe arguing maybe one of the weaker parts of anyone's legend, and he's winning MVPs. That goes to show you the power that anyone's legend has.
Yes, absolutely. The weakest part is still the MVP of the game. It's a pretty good formula to play with, that's for sure. For now, it's time for another break, everybody. We'll be back with game 2 of the series. Anyone's Legend 1-0 up versus JDG for now. Come back in just a few minutes. We'll find out how the series continues.